Welcome in to the Bonesville Pregame Podcast. Al Myatt, joined by Kevin Monroe. Kevin, of course, an exceptional defensive back in his playing days at East Carolina and part of the Pirate Radio Network that will be calling the game this Saturday as East Carolina hosts Appalachian State, 4 p.m. kickoff, Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. Kevin, the Pirates are 2-0 for the first time since 2016. I think with some real motivation against the Mountaineers, who have beaten East Carolina the past two seasons in Charlotte and Boone. I don't think the Pirates have had the kind of momentum that they're going to take into this contest on Saturday evening.
Yeah, Al, you know what? It's interesting because this used to be kind of the little brother to East Carolina, right? FCS opponent. They were really good at their level, but when they stepped up to the FBS level, they struggled to win games consistently, although they were always competitive. And I think that has changed now. I think that App State, over the last couple of years has been the better program, and have been, on the rise ever since going to FBS. They're doing well in their conference. They've been in some championships. In the FBS level, and so things have changed. And I think knowing App State alums, they expect to win now when they play East Carolina, and that didn't used to be the case. And so East Carolina certainly has some momentum going 2-0 in these first two games. Norfolk State, and then the big win this past week at ODU. So I expect to see the Pirates show up and play well, but certainly App State fans expect to come in our house and win this ballgame.
Of course, the Old Dominion, I think anytime you go on the road against an FBS opponent, you're playing them Saturday night in front of their home crowd, that's an accomplishment to come back with the W.
Oh, there's no question. And it's just hard to win football games in college football. You've heard Mike Houston say it a lot, and you hear a lot of coaches say that. It's, no matter who you're playing, it's hard to win. And so to have, played 8 quarters of winning football so far is big for the Pirates. Certainly, you're not going to be able to beat probably anyone else on the roster, on the schedule rather, over the next 10 weeks or so, turning the ball over 4 times, specifically 4 interceptions. So there's lots to clean up, but to be able to turn the ball over like that and still get the win, just big for the confidence boost of the Pirates.
And then we saw kind of the revitalized Rajay Harris on Saturday night, Kevin. A 22-yard run to get the scoring started. And then after East Carolina had missed some opportunities late in the first half, Rajay breaks a long run, 63 yards in the third quarter, puts East Carolina ahead to stay.
Yeah, Rajay looks good. We used to kind of refer to him as Thunder. He was the Thunder to keep Mitchell's lightning. So he was more the bulldozer kind of back that didn't necessarily have the breakaway speed. Not that he didn't have it, he just was not nearly as fast as Keaton Mitchell. But look at him now. I mean, he's healthy. He talked about, you guys are going to see, he said this in the preseason, you guys are going to see, I'm going to break some long runs. I do have that speed that nobody expects that I have because I haven't been able to show it lately. And sure enough, he breaks that long run. And I remember it vividly during the game. I think it was a 3rd and medium or 3rd and long. And the Pirates needed to get that first down. And he kind of caught the defense off guard. Don David Baker called kind of a draw play, and he skirted out of the back end, and they never laid a hand on him. And so it was impressive to see him get that 60-yard run. Now we know that he has that breakaway speed. He's put it on film, so now opponents will know he has it, and that works a lot in the mind of opponents to know a guy can run through you and run past you. So it's a huge run for him to have over 100 yards rushing on the day. Touchdown is a big day for Rajay.
He had that knee injury mid-2022 season, sat out the remainder of that season. He was back last year, but it was general consensus that he was not the same player that he was when he was Rookie of the Year in the American. But, in that preseason interview, he said, I'm not wearing the brace. That's a couple of pounds that he's not carrying right there. And he just sounded much more confident in what he could do, and he certainly showed that, in fact, on a Saturday night at ODU. And what does that big play threat? We saw what Keaton Mitchell did for Holton Ahlers a couple of years ago. And, if Rajay can sustain the threat, he doesn't have to break one as long as the defenses respect him. What does that do for the passing game?
I think it's huge because, you have to stay in there and protect against the run, because every team knows to be able to win football games, you have to stop the run. So they're going to start off with 7 in the box or so, most defenses. And then when you prove you can't run the ball, they'll take that guy out of the box, put him in the passing game, and all of a sudden now it's 6 in the running game, 5 in the passing game. And so you want to keep teams forced to have to keep that guy in the box to protect against it. And sometimes once they start running really well, they'll put an 8th guy in there, only leave 3 in pass coverage. And so you get teams to do that, you are able to exploit them in the passing game. And so, yeah, to have Rajay be able to break one, to be able to, average 4, 5, 6 yards a carry is a confidence builder for the offense, confidence builder for him, but also a big-time hit to the defense, because they know now they have to stay in there and protect against the running game, and that's going to open it up for the passing game.
A balance is great. And, you look at East Carolina and Harris, you got Garcia at quarterback, his generating passing yards, and but 7 interceptions in 2 games. And I get the fact that a deep pass that's picked off is about like a punt.
Right.
And Mike Houston in his news conference this week said, Jake just has to learn he can't hit a home run every play.
Right.
And sometimes it's better to throw the ball away. Sometimes it's better to check off to a safer route. And that was only his 3rd start at ODU in his college career as a junior at East Carolina now. So a lot of potential there, I think, and just a little better judgment, and he's going to be even better, I think, leading the Pirates.
Yeah, he's got almost 600 yards passing on the year. He's thrown 4 TD passes, but he has those 7 interceptions. And you just have to understand that what loses football games is, first and foremost, not taking care of the football. Now, you certainly have to be able to get first downs and score points and do those things, but not turning it over, just giving your team the opportunity to win is what your offense is asking for, what your defense is asking you to do. So, yeah, he just has to be able to check down, throw the ball to the tight end, throw the ball to the running back, throw the ball away in order to keep his offense moving, to give him an opportunity to play a next down, to be able to keep chains moving. And he's just not doing that. And in my opinion, the race at quarterback was so tight in the preseason that even though they want to give him a long leash, if he continues to turn the football over at the rate that he's doing it, 3 interceptions in the first game, 4 in the second game, if he continues to do that, they're going to give Kaden Hauser an opportunity. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants – I shouldn't say nobody wants that. Certainly people want to see Kaden Hauser play, but nobody wants the quarterback controversy. They want to see one guy take the helm, do the job, and be great at it. And I think Garcia has shown, almost 300 yards passing per game, 2 TDs passing per game on average, almost 300 yards, through the air, different opportunities. So he can do it. He just has to do it and not necessarily play mistake-free football. Fans and coaches will be fine with a turnover here or there, but it can't be consistently 3 one game, 4 one game, so on and so forth. So he's got to take care of the football better than that. It sounds like they're going to stick with him as a starter again this week. And, when you win, it makes everything better. I don't know if that would be the case if they had a loss this game to ODU, because ODU had a chance to go win it late. But you win, and you feel like you can just correct your mistakes. So they're going to stick with him, but he has to do better taking care of the football this week.
Well, certainly the running game and Garcia himself, when he's productive, and the defense have allowed the luxury of a little bit of a learning curve for Jake Garcia. I think, if you're winning and you've got correctable errors, that's a good situation, I think, early in the season. But Kaden Hauser certainly good enough to start, I think, 5 games at Michigan State last year. And he completed all 3 of his tosses in the opener against Norfolk State. But I think one upside for Garcia is just a dynamic leader on the field. You want that from your quarterback, and he's been able to provide that for the Pirates. And they have added some receivers, I think, that make him a better quarterback, Anthony Smith in particular.
Yeah, Anthony Smith has 10 catches on the year. Winston Wright Jr. has 10 catches on the year. And Anthony has proven to be that outside threat that can stretch the field. He's a taller receiver, 6'2", 6'3". He runs really well, can stretch down the field, but also he can be that possession receiver. We've seen him run plenty of hitches and slants and comebacks and things like that to get open and catch the football. And he's been pretty sound at that. And I will say game 2 wasn't as successful as game 1 in terms of receivers making plays, getting yards after the catch, catching everything. We saw some drops in game 2. Guys weren't as dynamic after they caught the ball. So I think everyone has to do some things to get better. The running game was strong, but I think the receivers have to be better about catching the football first and then getting yards after the catch. And so I expect them to be better going forward. But, there was that time, in Pirate football, receivers have been the best position group for a long, long time in Pirate football. I mean, going all the way back into the 90s with the early 90s with Jeff Blake, on into the David Garrard era, and on past the Holt Nailers in that era. We've always had 2 and 3 and 4 really good receivers, and that had fallen off here recently. Chase Sowell stepped up last year. He was that guy. And so now we're trying to get back to that where you've got 3 and 4 really good players. Chase had a tough first game back. He had a couple drops. He just didn't seem in sync as himself. I expect him to be great as he was last year. Winston Wright, I expect him to be really, really good. Anthony Smith is going to be good. We know about Riles and Kelly at tight end. They both shown they can do it. They didn't have as many opportunities in game 2 as they did in game 1. And then Brock Spalding, can't forget about Brock Spalding, had a good first game. So I think this receiving core can be really, really good. They did have some drops, and they can be more explosive in game 3 than they were in game 2. So I expect that whole group to be better this week.
Let's talk a little bit about the Mountaineers as they come in, and they had the misfortune of playing Clemson last week at Clemson after the Tigers had gone to Georgia, and the margin of defeat, 34-3, I think that caught a lot of people by surprise. Of course, Georgia Bulldogs, number 1 team in the country. But Clemson has been in that position. They've won national championships in relatively recent history. And Appalachian State, I think, was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the short end there, as Clemson put up 62 points on Saturday.
Yeah, I think, Clemson, maybe a little bit embarrassed against Georgia. And, there's nothing embarrassing about getting beat by the best team in the country. But the way that they were handled, considering Clemson is a top 10 caliber team when they're at their best, the way they were handled by another top 10 team, number 1 team in the country, was, I think, a little bit embarrassing for them. And so they bounced back in a big time way. And I think for App State fans who have, dominated at the FCS level, winning some championships and being at the top of their league every year, advancing to the FBS level and keeping that same type of success in terms of being in championship games in the conference, I think it's given them this aura of, we are a really good football program. And they are. But they are not to the level of a top 10, top 15 caliber Clemson team. And that showed early, to give up 66 points. And, there's plays where there's, long touchdown passes to receivers for Clemson. And there's nobody in the screen for App State. And so I heard one App State fan say it looked like the defensive backs were running in peanut butter. And so you get that different level of athleticism as you go into top 15, top 10 teams in the program, in the country. And so, yeah, I think it was a little bit demoralizing for App State. I don't think East Carolina would have played a whole lot better against Clemson. I do think East Carolina's defense is better. Maybe not give up 66 points, but that's a tough ball game to win. So I don't expect App State to come into this game thinking they still can't beat the Pirates because they lost to Clemson. They will still expect to play well against East Carolina and expect to win. But I do think they were humbled a little bit, and that's what playing those big-time opponents will do for you.
Absolutely. And we just don't know how much of a disparity there is between the top teams in college football now because the top teams have significant financial resources and they can attract players. Clemson doesn't do that because they don't take transfers. They develop, they recruit on a very high level out of high school, and their philosophy is to develop those players. But certainly Georgia would be in that category when it comes to nil money for transfers, I think. Joey Aguilar, quarterback for Appalachian, Coach Mike Houston of the Pirates, has a lot of respect for Joey. Last year he threw for 241 yards against East Carolina, 3 touchdowns. So certainly a factor in that outcome last year, and that East Carolina defense will have to more or less maybe not contain him, but keep Aguilar from beating ECU on Saturday.
Yeah, he's certainly a player. We saw that last time we played him. As you mentioned, those stats, a few touchdowns. He's very successful, and he's just good. He played well the first 2 games so far this year. He's thrown 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 270 yards passing on the young season. And to say he threw no interceptions against Clemson is a big deal because they have a really good defense, good defensive backs. But he's poised. He doesn't get rattled. A lot of the same things we say about Garcia for the Pirates. But in his situation, he doesn't make the unnecessary throws. He doesn't put himself in bad situations. He's not just going to give you a turnover. You're going to have to earn it playing against Joey Aguilar. So I expect the Pirates to game plan for him. He's more of a thrower than he is a runner, but he can run the football. He's run some this year. Doesn't get sacked a ton. Obviously, the Clemson game was a little bit of an outlier, but he's a guy that can make plays with his feet if he needs to. But he wants to throw the ball downfield. He's a very accurate thrower, completing over 60% of his passes. So yeah, I expect the Pirates to be very, very ready for him. And defensively in the secondary, I mean, the Pirates have been, pretty much lights out. Having played Norfolk State, obviously Norfolk State, struggled to score points. And then in this ODU game, I was very, very impressed with how good the defense was. They made Grant Wilson at quarterback look, pretty pedestrian. And so the way Savone Revel is playing, the way IBM, Isaiah Brown Murray is playing the other corner spot, the way the safeties have been stepping up in the pass coverage, helping out, the way the linebackers are so athletic, playing underneath to take away the slants and the curls. They've just been very, very successful against the passing game. So I know that Coach Harrell is game planning right now to make make this Appalachian State team have to do a lot of really good things to complete passes and score touchdowns on the Pirates. So it's going to be tough. Aguilar's a good player, but I expect the Pirate defense to be up to the task.
Javius Bond went out with an apparent knee injury at Old Dominion. We've got running back depth as it stands right now, but I think where he might be missed the most is in the return game because East Carolina has shown signs of stepping up in the return game as far as special teams are concerned.
Yeah, we had a good game from Harris at running back, and then Marlon Gunn came in to spare him. We know we have Montgomery as well. So we're not as concerned as you said about Bond not being in the run game, but in the return game, he was shown to be a pretty good player. I mean, he was very confident in catching the punts, hadn't put any on the ground, but also after he made the catch, he was that guy in the open field that can make people miss. And so you will miss that. They did put Brock Spalding back there this year. We know we have Winston Wright if we need to at punt return as well. And so I think they'll be okay in terms of someone successfully catching the ball. I don't know that Brock is as shifty as Javius is, and so maybe there won't be the necessarily the threat of the big play that there was with Bond back there. But I'm okay with it. In the punt return game, just catch it, give your offense a chance to get back out there and run the offense. So we don't need a big play threat every time, although Brock is very capable.
And then Andrew Conrad, Kevin, I can't figure out the kicking game. I hope that doesn't persist, but that was something that we saw last year, an inability at times to convert on touchdown kicks. But later in the game, he kind of redeemed himself, 52-yarder, and he has quite the capability. His range is pretty well out there.
Yeah, it's a mind game almost when you score a touchdown, you kick that extra point, you get to 7 points, and now 2 field goals doesn't tie that game, right? The team has to go down and score a touchdown and make their extra point to tie you. And so mentally you think, man, okay, we're down by 7 points. But when a team misses that extra point and you think, oh, we're just down by 2 field goals, it's a mental boost. I know that sounds crazy, but you don't feel like you're down as much. And so after all the excitement of the first score, the Pirates are feeling good about things, drove the ball down the field. You miss that extra point, and all of a sudden you get that 6 on the board. It just doesn't feel as good as having that 7. And so that was a tough way to start the game. But as you said, he bounced back late, hit a long one. We know the kind of talent that Andrew Conrad has. He has a big leg. He can kick from long distance. He made 50-plus yarders in the past. So I don't think the coaches had any doubt when they put him out there to make that long one. So I expect him to be okay. But you're right. Last year there were some ups and downs, and you thought you weren't getting the same contract as you had the year before. But he had a good off season, good preseason, and good fall camp, and they expect him to make field goals on a consistent basis. And so I'll take the way he finished the game as an omen that he's going to be okay. But certainly we have to be tighter in that. Extra points or gimmies. We got to make those every time out.
Well, Kevin, it's time for that Bonesville tradition, and that's Kevin's keys to the game.
I think that the one thing that Clemson was able to do against App State this week was they got on them early. And I think that you have to do that, especially when you're at home. You get the crowd and the momentum behind you. So the Pirates have to strike fast, whether it be offensively or make a play defensively. They need to nip this the aura, the excitement, that App State has in the bud as early as possible. So get out quick on them. I think they need to continue to establish the running game. I think having that running game this past week against ODU was huge. Whether it's Raji, whether it's Marlon Gunn, whether it's Montgomery, whoever it is, has to get out there and average 4 or 5 yards to carry, move those chains. Also in the run game, that keeps it from putting too much pressure on Garcia. Keeps it from him having third and mediums, third and long. So he doesn't think he has to go out and win the games by himself or make plays all the time downfield. So they got to establish that running game. And then defensively, we talked about Joey Aguilar, his ability. So the Pirates have to be strong in the back end. I have no doubt that the two corners in Revel and IBM are going to do their job. We just have to have help underneath and help over top with the safeties and the linebackers and get a good pass rush up front. So you got to make sure that Aguilar doesn't beat you defensively, run the football offensively, and just find a way not to make those mistakes. And Garcia made so many mistakes over the last 2 weeks. Have to cut those down.
Well, Kevin, I am looking forward to the Pirates restoring their place in this rivalry and looking forward to talking to you next week as well on the Bonesville Pregame Podcast.
Appreciate it, Al.